everybody. Thanks for checking out this daily devotional. I hope you're doing well. Today I want to talk about the importance of building altars in your life. The importance of building altars in your life. This is a common practice that we see throughout the Old Testament, the books written before Jesus. We commonly see that when God acts on behalf of his people, what the people would do is they'd build an altar. They'd build something to help them remember what God had done. One example of this is Joshua chapter 4, verses 19 through 24. Let me set the stage a little bit. What's happened is that there was this huge river that was in between Joshua and the people and where they needed to go. And so what God told them to do, he told them to take the priests and put them into the river, carrying the Ark of the Covenant, which was representative of the presence of God. And when that happened, the river would dry up and the people would be able to pass through on dry land. And so that happens, the priests do that, and then this is what occurs after that takes place. Picking up in verse 19. Then the people came up out of the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and they encamped at Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones, which they took out of the Jordan, Joshua set up at Gilgal. And he said to the people of Israel, when your children ask their fathers in times to come, what do those stones mean? Then you shall let your children know, Israel passed over this Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan for you until you passed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which he dried up for us until we passed over. So that all the peoples of the earth may know that the hand of the Lord is mighty, that you may fear the Lord your God forever. So here's what's going on. These people were able to pass through the river, watch what it said, just like they did in the Red Sea. You remember the story of the Red Sea, right? That was Moses, the leader who came before Joshua. He also took the people through the Red Sea when God parted the waters. And so God came through for them at the Jordan like he'd done before at the Red Sea. And so here at the Jordan, they make a memorial, an altar, so that in the coming generations, when the kids ask, hey, what do these stones mean? They can tell the story of how God came through for them. Implication, what would happen is that when they told that story, that would build people's faith in the present based on what God had done in the past. And that's what an altar is. An altar is something that commemorates how God came through in the past so that we can have faith that he's going to get us through in the present. Altars build our faith. They remind us of what God has done so that we can have faith in what we believe God is going to do. The challenge is that so often we just easily forget things. We don't remember what God has done. And so when we're faced with present challenges, we can give into fear, we can give into helplessness, we can give into hopelessness, anxiety, and worry. All those things are signs that we're forgetting that the only reason we're in our present situation is because God's been faithful to us in the past. Like if God hadn't been faithful to us, we wouldn't even be alive to be able to go through what we're going through. Right? So every moment that we exist is a moment where we are there because God has been faithful to us in the past. And so when we go through kind of big things though, when we go through God coming through in big ways, we need to commemorate that. We need to make altars, if you will. We need to do something so that when we are faced with challenges in the present, we can go back to those past altars and we can remind ourselves, no, this is who God is. This is how God is mighty. This is how God has proven what he's done so that we can have faith to what he's going to do in the future. I mean, obviously our biggest altar that we always go back to is the cross of Jesus Christ. That's a place we can go to again and again and again because it's there that we see God definitively coming through once and for all his people. But you know what? In our lives, we can have personal things as well. We can have personal altars, personal moments where there was a tremendous challenge and God was just faithful and just got us through. Listen, don't go over that quickly. Like, don't move on from that fast. Take time to commemorate it, to memorialize it. Do something so that you can go back to that and build your faith in the present by going back to that moment in the past. Some people do this by writing songs. Some people do this by creating art. Some people do this by writing down in a journal. What I do, I like to tell stories. I like to commemorate by just telling the story again and again so that way it gets in my conscience and gets in the conscience of people around me. It's something I can remind myself of. And when I actually forget it, other people know the story, and so they can remind me of it. And so a story that I commonly tell is a story of how when I was 24 years old, 2 years into my marriage, about to face my second major surgery because of my Crohn's disease, had a life-threatening infection, and the doctor comes to me and just says, "Hey, Jeff, I think we were going to be able to clear up the infection with the surgery, but just so you know, you might not ever be able to have children because of all the treatments and things that you've been through, and I just want to prepare you for that." And Angie and I, we're just sitting there, now not just scared and anticipating kind of the risky surgery, but also just thinking about the implications of that, right? And Angie, I'm just holding her and trying to care for her and feel my own grief, but also feeling grief for her, because it's like, man, she didn't sign up for that. Like, it's not her fault, it's my fault. And working through that guilt, and we're praying together. But then she goes home, and I'll never forget, that night was one of the darkest nights I've ever gone through. Just feeling alone. I'm feeling worthless. I'm feeling hopeless, feeling helpless. God, where are you? And I didn't honestly think I was going to make it through the night. I didn't think I was going to make it. My emotions were such that it was like I was being suffocated, and I didn't know how to find this faith that I believed in Jesus, but faith was just absent. It's like every time I tried to reach for something, it was like smoke, like just going through my hands. I didn't know how I was going to get through. And yet, as I was trying to fight for sleep, God led me to Psalm 73, and I just opened it up, and that Psalms, if you've heard me preach, that Psalm is always going to come up at some point. And, Psalm 73, "Whom have I in heaven but you? There's none on earth that I desire beside you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but you are the strength of my heart and my portion forever." And just holding on to that. Listen, everything around me, God's failing, but you are my strength. You alone, not a strength that comes in myself, no, a strength that comes in you. And I'm just casting myself on God, and by the grace of the Lord, I got through that night. I got through that night. When I'm faced with kind of, moments of darkness that I don't see a way through, I'm reminded of that night. I'm reminded of that Bible verse. Like, that is underlined and highlighted in my Bible, because it's a place I can go through that, no, God came through for me. On September 22nd, 2010, at Virtua Hospital in Voorhees, God met me in that hospital room, and he got me through. I tell that story again and again because it's an altar of how God has moved in my life in the past, and man, when I'm going through stuff in the present, that's a place I gotta go back to. And so what altars do you have? My encouragement to you is, even today, take some time writing them down. Write down ways that God's been faithful to you in the past. Create a list. Share it with a friend. Share it with your family if you have one. Recount the altars. Memorialize things. Not just as nostalgic things that happened in the past. No, allow those things to build your faith that your Lord is mighty, and his right hand does deliver his people. And so when your present situation starts talking to you, you bring out your altars and you start talking back, and you're like, no, this is who my God is. And so no matter what challenge my present circumstances are, my past deliverances speak to what God's going to do here. I don't know how he's going to come through, but I know that because he has, he always will. Friends, having altars is crucial for us having this persevering, resilient, God-exalting, Jesus-honoring faith. And so don't miss out on creating altars. Don't just go through life. No, memorialize it. Mark down moments. Whatever it is, write a song, paint a picture about it, underline your Bible, create a journal entry, whatever it is, make an altar so that your faith can continue to be strengthened.